And for those of you who would like to just stay on for a few more minutes, I invite you to think about, based on the dialogue that we've just had and the exploration, what makes sense for you in terms of how you might use these discoveries going forward? What might be your next wise action in terms of how you apply CDE to your work?
Well, personally, I really love this. Is it Jambox? This technology?
Oh, the Jamboard, the Google Jamboard.
Really awesome. Really
Oh,
fun.
good. I'm so pleased. I noticed, thank you. Yeah, I would say I'm a novice at it. I'm still got a learner's license. So for me to problem solve and help others, I apologize for a little bit of the struggles at the beginning, but so far it worked out for the most part.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, great. Is there anything in terms of an idea that may be emerging for you and how you might be able to use SoWhat and in some opportunity that you have coming forward for you guys?
One thing I'm noticing from this whole process, it's really fantastic, in that, what if we had teams? I mean, could teams, what if they come up with their own awareness, similarly to what we did around what a high-performing team is, to, define an initial state of where they are? And then what if you do it again over time after they work together for a bit? What shifts might they notice if they do it again? Right? Is there a way for them to discover and have an awareness of also CDEs and how those work together? I'm just curious about that. It could be an interesting experiment. Yeah.
Janice, I'm thinking about that, and also that across scales, because I'm wondering if there are ways that the explicit intention around this could help monitor the potential that the individual over the resilience and performance of individuals, teams, the systems those teams serve, could actually become extractive or oppressive forces. So that there might be a way that if you made this more explicit at all levels, if you had to always go back and look at what's happening at the individual resilience performance cycle related to what you're achieving at the system level or the team level performance, you might be able to actually monitor that you're doing it at someone's expense as opposed to in a resilience building way. Thinking about that question that Catherine was saying about, like, depending on what the goals are, you could be using, someone's capacity to work well on very little sleep in a really terrible manner, or someone's, not feeling comfortable exerting their own needs in the workplace, to create a team that's really resilient, and maybe there's a time dimension too. But there's something about being able to use a tool like this at more than one scale.
Yeah.
That seems like it could be kind of an accountability tool, or at least a reflection tool.
So then you could create, like, say, little containers. And then everyone, what you just showed us, Catherine, was going into our groups. And then we just go, what did that group see about? Go into another group, right? And yeah.
Yeah, we just created little containers within the whole exploration of creating, containers, and then noticing the differences and having an exchange about all of that. It's sort of just, it repeats itself. One of the things that really is jumping out for me is, and I think I'm just noticing it and I'm curious about it, is I wonder if the high performance might be in the quality of the exchanges, right? Because that's the quality of the sharing of the information, or the quality of the transfer of whatever it is. There's something in that I'm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me,
I'm
Catherine.
on the edge of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's around how do we decide what to do and when to do it and how to do it. as smoothly and easily and effectively and as possible. And ideally with some humor and some lightness instead of the heavy barking of commands, right? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And to look at those exchanges of information and communication at the individual level, the team level, and then the system level as a way of sourcing the fractal of the team inside the larger.
Well, and that fractal, so, okay, this is now coming to more clearer to me. The high performance, so if we have the individual tuning into their own internal exchanges, their own internal, that level of self-awareness, the automatic thoughts, tuning into their degree of energy or fatigue or whatever that is, their sense of inner conflict over something, or their gut screaming differently than what their head is saying, right? And then, so take that, so I'm starting to go into like a bit of the Aqua Model, right? Where we have the individual and then the how that person shows up, and then the culture that it impacts, and then the system. And I think that those exchanges, if we can capitalize on those exchanges at all those different levels, I think that's where the magic is.
Exchanges are very important. I would agree. But here's the thing is there is no flow unless there's a difference between what's on either side of the exchange, right?
Yeah.
There is no motivation. So even for people, there needs to be a need or a want or a desire or something. So, you know, they all need each other. And otherwise it's static, right? It's really a static system. And a high performing team needs to be able to sail dynamically. So the differences are critical.
A degree of difference. There needs to be a degree of differences. Otherwise there isn't that pull towards change or towards movement.
And the containers of the individual is the communication and exchange coming from a place of reactivity, or is it coming from a place of beingness and presence, connection?
Maybe it's both. It doesn't have to be either or.
Yeah, being and doing.
It's both and. Dan, I'm curious what's coming up for you. I want to give you a chance to share your voice.
I'm just soaking it all up. There's some big ideas floating around. I really like that last comment about the flow, because when you said that, Janice, I was thinking of a stream flowing between banks. And so it's confined in that sense, but it's also being exposed to frictions or tensions. And that what thought popped into my mind at that time was the other teams, the finish line, those kind of motives, those kinds of tensions.
The turbulence that can come from the friction too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it smooth? Is it a smooth, seamless flow, or is it like a turbulent, like the ocean bubbling, or going through rapids in a river? You know, what kind of
turbulence can create value as well, right? Just like our
excitement and joy and a thrill, right?
Exactly. Turbulence is, I think of, there's something called the constructal law, and it's related to aircraft, actually. And it's almost like there's, it's physics, but there's like about, 5 simple rules you might think about. Okay, what is it? The weight of the aircraft, the thrust from the engine, and you have to be tweaking all of these parameters, and it can be different depending on takeoff, sustaining, gaining elevation, coming down. All of these things have to be tweaked. And so constructal law is something that's been used for, and there's turbulence at the wing, right? At the wing tips, how you change the wing. And you actually, for flight, you actually do need turbulence in the air. So I imagine like with sailing, there's similar turbulence required at different, maybe at the front with, but there's a lot of metaphors I've seen in that model. constructal law. You can look it up about aircraft. There's a lot of figures, images you can see on the internet. And I also see parallels of the constructal law to learning, how humans learn. And I'm really curious is if, that can be applied to teams as well. So for learning, things like, okay, what is the different types of cognitive load, for example, can be representing elements. Is it your main load or is it the different types? I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but, some experts have
I really love
recognized
that.
Yeah.
Do you see that as an exchange or as a difference? Because I from how you were describing it at first, it sounded like a difference, but then the laws themselves seem like very much this exchange, like an exchange of energy and an exchange of.
Yeah.
So
I see them as simple rules, actually, simple rules. Yeah, more so. And like there's little metrics that can be applied to them, right, as well, which is, so I don't, that's a very interesting thing to look at.
So then that would be containers.
Are they containers or are simple rules containers? They are a container in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There might be some simple rules for resilience in high-performing teams.
Oh, what might that be? Oh my gosh, there's the next amazing question, right? I don't even want to call it a wicked question because I think it could be what are the simple rules?
When you were talking about, so there's something about respond easily to turbulence might be a simple rule. Open to difference. Follow the rules when needed. I don't know. What else about resilience would it be? Know how, Catherine, you're really good at this sort of thing. It's the Cat, as in Catherine LaCour, my ability to do self-care. Something about looking after myself before others so that I can look after others, sort of thing. I don't know, those are just top of head simple rules for resilience in high performing teams.
I'm so glad this is recorded because I didn't capture all of those in the moment, but I'll listen back and share that back out. I think that was just a real gem. Thank you, Victoria.
I was typing them up as Victoria was speaking. I thought they were really cool. And I've actually plugged them on your page. So there, at least 3 of them are there.
Oh, great. I stopped sharing so that we could just look at each other. But that's brilliant. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Is that our next now what? Is to carry on the conversation and explore what are the simple rules?
That would be resilient high-performing teams. Interesting, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
I say I have to disclose that's like a personal bias of mine, of course.
No, I think it'd be really fun to do that, actually.
Okay.
I do too.
I would love to do that with you guys. That would be brilliant.
And can I say that for me, it would be great to explore those simple rules after we've more fully explored the 4 questions that you put out, because these are super powerful questions and we didn't really get a chance to get into them much. Okay. And there's some real magic in those questions, and it would be fun to dig into them a little bit.
So maybe part 2 will be dive more deeply into those 4 questions. Mm-hmm. And then part 3 would be to see what comes out and how does that inform simple rules for resilient high-performing teams. Okay, well, that will be my commitment to everybody to help us come together again and explore this as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting in our group, Catherine.
Sorry, what's that, Dan?
I was really curious by how our conversation went to the sailboat in our group and not to the more general. Some of us were looking at more general applications, and some folks wanted and needed to stick with the example of the sailboat. So having that to sort of anchor this system on was really helpful initially. And I think that would be an interesting launchpad for another conversation is to either use another example or to go more general. And
okay, well, if somebody has another story as using an HSD simple rule, right? Connect the principles to a story. Let's send it. Let's collaborate. So many brains are just more
It would be really interesting to repeat the process with something that was kind of at the other end of the spectrum. You know, the sailboat being a pretty, you know, has a good
very
and
defined,
a very clear purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and then if we were to repeat the process and do it with, you know, something that was a more open-ended goal, or there was, you know, there was just a different, more of a, you know, flat team. I don't know what I can't think of an example off the top of my head. I'll think about it, but it would be neat to see if we came up with a lot of the same.
I actually have a thought on that, because I really like what you're saying, and I'm wondering if these days maybe something around activism or, you know, a cause, climate change, Black Lives Matter, blah blah. I don't know, but something that was really huge.
I have a really big one.
Organizing. Yeah. Sorry, Catherine.
That's cool. There's a really big one I'm working on right now. I'd love integrating psychedelic medicine into the healthcare system. And that's integrating universities, healthcare, community organizations, indigenous groups.
That's
it's very
cool.
wide.
Wow.
That's cool.
And I think I was talking with you, Catherine, about I'm in the mineral exploration field, where we go out in the wilds and look for metals, right? We don't even know they're there, whether they're there or not, right? So we might have something we're looking for, whether it be copper or gold. And sometimes we have a size, idea of size, how that it needs to be. But these are teams that have come together, and I'm not sure even if they can become a team. What's the difference between a team and a group and a crew? Because we have a lot of people who get together on those projects that are just seasonal, right? And that's a lot of our world right now. Is it possible to actually form high-performing teams? And there's no training on teaming or even project leadership or nothing on these teams. Nothing like that. Technical experts get into the role of leadership. There's no support for anything like that. But yet, how do these teams, it's very interesting how they get together and can execute. And the fascinating thing for me is when you see a high-performing, there's a very interesting thing is they will work themselves out of a job. A high-performing team, because they're paid by the day. And so when they're high-performing, they will drive themselves to get to a key decision point, get the job done to their own demise, actually. And they don't get paid any reward for that. And it's like, wow, have we seen that anywhere else, right? They evolve into that state together. And not necessarily, and there's a lot of storytelling in the culture. They can be safe without any of these layers of rules, you know? And it's like, how does that happen? Is there anywhere else that we see that? Families, does that happen in families? I don't know.
So was it Catherine or Victoria who had the big burning issue?
Catherine.
Oh, it was you, Catherine. Would you be able to share that in the chat before we adjourn? Just sort of the essence of that.
And while Kat's doing that, I have a question, Catherine.
Yes.
It's around, you put these 4 questions up, and I'm curious why you chose that rather than doing the Magic 21. Isn't that what it's called?
I was building from some of the resources on the HSD website and some of the really juicy questions that were already up there. And I also don't know, I haven't done the HSD certification, and I'm not as well versed in all of the tools. So I'm still fairly novice, and this was really an opportunity for me to practice and kind of get the juices flowing and just bring the community together. So it was sort of my own limited familiarity of the different tools.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's just what I was wondering about that, because we just did something the other day that used a Magic 21, and what was really cool was we then took all of the containers and we said, okay, of these containers, which are the ones that make the biggest difference? And so we picked 3. And that enabled us to be a bit more focused in the second part of our conversation, which was around, so what exchanges do we need and what, and so I'm just wondering if it might not be a bad idea to funnel the questions down a little bit, to make it a little bit less complex.
Yeah.
But it's just an idea.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm not married to it. I'm not married to it at all.
I welcome the ideas, and I don't pretend to think that all the right ideas are my own. So thank you. I want to just honor the time that I've allocated for this, and honor everybody else's time. And thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to having another gathering where we can go to step 2, step 3, and really explore this further. There seems to be a lot of energy around this topic.
Yeah. Thanks
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much, Catherine.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for hosting.
Okay.
Very
Bye.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.